Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware follows Nora Shaw, who awakens in a hospital with no memory of how she got there, and now she is a suspect in a murder investigation. She knows that she was at a bachelorette party, invited by a friend she hadn't seen in 10 years. As she struggles to remember the events that led to her hospitalization, she's forced to question her past and her present before someone gets away with murder. Guys, I don't know how this happened exactly, but I totally skipped right past this debut novel by Ruth Ware. My very first book by Ruth Ware was actually her second book, The Woman in Cabin 10, and ever since then, I have collected and read all of her books. Again, for some bizarre reason, I somehow skipped over this very first book by her. So I decided, you know what, I need to remedy that pronto. So I finally got around to reading Ruth Ware's debut book. Yeah, guys. And you know what, I gotta say, this is probably definitely not my favorite of Ruth Ware's books, to be quite honest. It doesn't go at the bottom. I definitely have the ones that are way at the bottom, but this goes pretty close to the bottom. But it's definitely not terrible or horrible by any means. Just, yeah, definitely not one of my favorites. Like, my personal favorite Ruth Ware books are like The Woman in Cabin 10 and The Turn of the Key and The Death of Mrs. Westaway and The It Girl. You know, those are like my personal top favorite ones. And this is what you need to know about this book before you head into it, because Ruth Ware, she is very much known for writing mysteries, you know, especially like murder mysteries, you know, very much like Agatha Christie. You know, Ruth Ware has kind of been hailed as the new Agatha Christie, if you will. The thing with this book, there is definitely a murder that happens, and you know from the get-go that a murder has happened, because our main character, Nora, she wakes up in a hospital. She doesn't know how she got there. She doesn't remember a thing. All she can kind of remember is that she was at a bachelorette party, and apparently some things went down. And yeah, past her hospital door, she can hear like the police talking, and she does hear that there is mention of a murder. Someone has died. Who? How? Why? Did she have something to do with it? She has no idea. So this book, you are definitely given this idea that it is a murder mystery. But to me, reading this book, I think this book is really much more of a deep character exploration more than anything. And I seriously think the murder mystery aspect of this book is secondary to the character stuff. And I'm not quite sure how to feel about that. And that may be hit or miss with other readers as well. I think readers need to kind of be warned about that this is much more a character deep dive, more so than a murder mystery. Because as I was reading this book, it's not a particularly really long book, but it takes its good sweet time setting up the plot and setting up the characters. More than anything, setting up these relationships, setting up Nora herself, who she is, how she relates to all of these people at the party. You know, like I said, she's been invited to this bachelorette party. She hasn't even seen this lady for like 10 years. So there's a lot of that has to be filled in as you're reading this book. Why has Nora not seen this former friend for 10 years? What happened? What went down? Why has she all of a sudden been invited to this party, you know? And I absolutely loved Nora as a character. I think Ruth Ware did a really fantastic job establishing the type of woman Nora is. Nora is somebody that for the past 10 years, once again, we get this idea, something happened 10 years ago that was pretty insane. For the past 10 years, Nora has lived a very, like, static, rigid, very much in control life. She controls everything with her routine and doesn't ever really kind of break up that routine. And yes, she does date guys occasionally, but like, she feels nothing, you know, she feels nothing with that. And once again, we're going back to something that happened 10 years ago, you know. So here comes this invitation to this bachelorette party, and this really throws Nora for a loop. It kind of gets her out of her comfort zone, and she kind of reluctantly goes to this party, and it's at this party that she is losing that rigidness and that structure and that control that she has had in her whole life, and she doesn't like it. You know, it really makes her feel uncomfortable. It puts her in a super awkward, vulnerable place, I think. And the thing too with Nora, again, we know from the get-go that she's at the hospital. She has no memory. So this whole book, it presents Nora as a hugely unreliable narrator, which is so fascinating, but not the type of unreliable narrator that is deliberately withholding and giving you misleading information. You know, not that type of unreliable narrator. The thing with Nora as an unreliable narrator in this book is that she has no memory. You know, she's trying to wade through what is fact and what is fiction, and what did she see, you know? So that presents her with the unreliable narrator aspect, is just the chaoticness of her memories kind of coming back and forth, and what is the truth. So again, what this book is much more concerned about, what Ruth Ware in particular seems to be much more concerned about, she has much more of a desire in this book to just showcase the complexities of human nature, if you will, the vulnerabilities and weaknesses of individuals and relationships and whatnot. And that is what's the most fascinating at times, sometimes more so than the murder mystery aspect. So in conclusion, I'm definitely glad and happy that I got around to this book. I think there are elements that could be a little bit frustrating, and I wouldn't blame another reader for feeling that way. Again, understand what type of book you're getting into, because it definitely reads much more as a character deep dive more than a murder mystery. It was never boring, let's put it that way. Even though I would put this kind of lower on my list of favorite books by Ruth Ware, the book was certainly never boring. I don't think I felt engaged and really into it, and I was curious what the hell was going on, you know, like how did Nora wind up in the hospital? What happened 10 years ago? Why was she just all of a sudden invited to this bachelorette party, you know? What secrets are all these other characters at the party hiding, you know? So there's a lot of interesting threads that kind of go on in this book, and a lot of little threads you got to pay attention to, because some things come back in big huge ways, like, oh, okay, that's the point of that. So this was still a really fine book. I'm glad I got around to it. And yeah, if you've enjoyed Ruth Ware in the past and you want to catch up on all of her books, definitely make sure you go back and catch this one if you have not already. So you guys, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on In a Dark, Dark Wood. In the comments below, have you guys read this book? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.